Hi, it's Chris. In this video, we're going to show you how to remove and reinstall the water filter housing on your Samsung refrigerator. So removing and replacing the water filter housing in your Samsung refrigerator is a fairly easy job to do, but it will require a few tools, mainly a blade screwdriver and a Phillips screwdriver. Keep in mind, if your machine needs to be repaired, it's usually simple enough to do it yourself. Visit PartSelect.com, enter your model number, and quickly find and order the part you need. The main reason you're going to be looking to remove and reinstall the water filter assembly in your Samsung refrigerator is sometimes they'll wind up leaking. From the filter being put in and put out, the seals will wear and they'll start to leak water. And in some cases, if you've had a temperature problem, maybe the refrigerator section has gotten too cold and something is frozen, it's possible that that dispenser assembly where the water filter is secured, that assembly will crack and split from being frozen. If that happens, there's no other recourse but to replace it. So as you can see, we have our doors open. We've removed all the food product from this refrigerator. So now what we need to do is start to remove some of these shelves and these crispers in order to gain access to the assembly. So now that we have the shelves and the crispers out of the way, you can see the water filter assembly. This has your water filter, the whole casing. There's some electrics in here as well. And beyond this, there's 3 water lines that go in and out of this dispenser assembly. And those are what we need to undo next. So the next thing we need to do is to pull this refrigerator out from the wall so we can get in behind and undo our water connections. So now that we have the refrigerator unplugged and turned out and pulled out from the wall and the cabinets, now we can access the water lines here in the back of the refrigerator. You also want to make sure you turn off your water supply that feeds your dispensers and your ice maker. So then we're going to loosen this connection from your water supply to the refrigerator. So when you undo this connection, there's probably some water in the line itself. So you just want to have a water container, a bucket or something, just to catch the water that may come out of this hose, or just a rag or towel on the floor to catch any water that does drip. So now we have a cover we need to remove, and it's held by 1 Phillips screw. So I'm just going to remove this screw, and then we can lift this cover right off. And these are the 3 lines that are coming right out of that water filter casing assembly. So next we want to remove these clamps that are holding these water lines in place. So you'll also notice there's some pieces of tape that the manufacturer used just to hold these lines in place during assembly. Pop that tape away, and that leaves them free. So these 3 water lines that are part of that casing assembly we're looking to change. One is the line that would come from your house water supply. This one is actually the one that goes and feeds the ice maker itself. So we don't have to do anything inside as far as disconnecting anything as far as the ice maker goes. All we wind up doing is pushing on this connector up here and pulling this hose straight out. So we're just going to push in with our thumb and then pull this hose straight out. So this blue line actually feeds in through here and comes up and goes out and exits right above where the top hinge is on the refrigerator. So we'll wind up taking that top cover off and undoing that connection, and then this hose just pulls straight out. So to access the water line connector on your Samsung refrigerator, you need to be up at the height of the top of the refrigerator itself. So you're going to need a step stool or a ladder, whatever's going to give you a good, safe working platform. But once you're up here, the first thing we need to do is to remove this top cover, and it's held in place by 3 screws. 1 here, 1 here, and 1 over here. And they're just a Phillips head screw, so they're very easy to just take a Phillips screwdriver and just remove the screws. And on these, you don't have to take the screw right out, just loosen them right off. You can leave them down into the area in the little well that they're sitting in. And once they're loosened, we're just going to lift this cover straight up. Now you'll notice there is a little wiring harness here that attaches from the fridge to that cover. You don't need to disconnect it. You just need to move this cover back out of your way. And now this exposes the water line connection. And as you can see, it's held into tightly up against the hinge by a couple of metal brackets. And all you're going to need to do is just to wiggle that up and out of that position. So this blue line going into the connector is the blue line we saw in the back of the refrigerator. So all we need to do is just press inward on this connection. That'll release the tension on the hose and pull that hose right out. And now we can just push that back through the channel and slip it out from behind the fridge. So now that we have the connection up above on that top hinge undone, we can just take and pull this hose right out. Now that's a plastic channel, the tube that runs up through, so when we go to put it back in, it's just going to go right through to where we want it to be. So now that we have everything undone in the back and on the top, now we just need to go inside the refrigerator, take our Phillips screwdriver, go to remove this one Phillips screw, and with that removed, we're now able to release this housing and pull it straight out. Now that we have that pulled out, you can see we have a few electrical connections we need to undo. And these are really easy to do. They just have a simple push tab on each connector and they just pull straight out. Just going to squeeze on that tab and pull it out. This one we just push down on the connector and pull out. Now this lower one's a little bit different. We'll just need a little blade screwdriver in order to release the catch on this one. And we'll just bring our blade screwdriver in so it's on top of that connector. Press downward and that'll release it and we can pull that out. Now while our electrical harnesses are undone, we can simply pull this whole assembly directly out of the refrigerator. And you'll see those water lines come right with it. So there you go. You can see just how easy it is to remove the water filter assembly from your refrigerator. So now to install the water filter assembly, it's just as easy as just a reversal of the original process. We're going to take these water lines, push them through the back of the cabinet, bring the assembly close, hook up our electrical, and then we start connecting everything back up. We'll start with the last one that we removed, just this little bottom one. Push that into place. Then the one that was right above it. And again, you can't mix these up. They only will connect to the proper connector and they can only go on one way. So there's no confusion. Now that that's all connected, we just move our housing and slip it back into place. So you'll see in the bottom of the dispenser, there's a notch cut into it. And on the bottom here, we've got a T-shaped latch. So we're just going to drop that into position and push it straight back. Now we just have to put our securing screw back in place. And honestly, while we're here, we may as well put our shelving and everything back into position. Now our shelves. So we can close up our doors. So now that everything's done, we're going to make our connections here in the back. So the first thing we want to do is insert our gray line into the gray fitting. We'll just push it in. And it's going through a tube inside so that it can only go in one place. So this lines up and feeds perfectly into the ice maker. So the next one we want to put in is our blue line, which runs up to the connector at the hinge. So now that we have the water line coming up through the cabinet, we just need to insert it into the connector. And these connectors make it really easy. You're simply going to insert it into the fitting, push it all the way through, and the connector actually grips the tubing so it can't pull back out. So once you have that put together, you're just going to put this connector back into the bracket that's part of the hinge, just by pushing it into place. And that has that secured. So now it's just a matter of putting this top back on. Taking your Phillips screwdriver, we'll now tighten the 3 screws that hold the cover in place. So now we just bring in our clamp and attach it with the Phillips screw. That's the upper one done. Now we just do the lower. Now if the pieces of tape are still there from before, you can just tack them back down. Again, these are just done during assemblies. So now we're just going to install our back cover. And with that secured, we just need now to connect the water line from the house. So there, all our connections are made. Now it's just a matter of turning the fridge back around, putting it into position, and plugging it in. So there you go. You can see just how easy it is to replace that water filter housing assembly in your Samsung refrigerator.